David Holloway's day started like most others, sweeping the marble halls of Westfield Tech, a high-end defense tech company where he worked as a night janitor. With mop in one hand and a photo of his late wife in his pocket, David wasn't just cleaning floors, he was holding together the last strands of a life he once knew. A single father raising his 9-year-old son, Liam, David had traded in his ambitions for survival. But what no one knew was that, before the mop, he once held rank. He had served in the elite Ranger Battalion, a part of the past he'd buried for Liam's sake. The janitorial crew barely spoke, and most engineers ignored David. The only human connection he had beyond his son was Ellie, the kind receptionist who always left a coffee cup by the supply closet. She knew bits of his past, and she respected the silence he kept. One night, as David wiped fingerprints off a titanium alloy prototype panel, a commotion erupted in the lobby. A buzz swept the building. Colonel Vanessa Trent, the military's most renowned close combat instructor, had arrived. She was there to demonstrate an elite self-defense and emergency containment protocol that would soon be implemented in international military outposts. The corporate floor turned into a showcase. Engineers, developers, and officers surrounded her in awe. David watched from a distance, unseen but listening. Vanessa was fierce, quick, and terrifyingly precise. Her sparring partner, a senior security officer, was knocked to the mat in seconds. Cheers erupted, then came a voice, arrogant, dismissive. "I bet even the janitor could put up a better fight." Laughter spread like wildfire. Vanessa, unimpressed, raised a brow. "Who's the janitor?" she asked. David froze. Everyone turned. Ellie whispered, "You don't have to." But David stepped forward. He removed his gloves and approached the mat. The silence was chilling. Vanessa narrowed her eyes, reading him instantly, not afraid. "Not foolish, just ... controlled. Your name?" "David, you've had training," he nodded. "Show." "May." The match started with formality bows, measured stances. But when Vanessa lunged, David slipped past her effortlessly, moving like mist. Her palm strikes missed by inches. His counters were precise but restrained, as if every move was memory, not muscle. 10 minutes in, Vanessa launched a spinning heel kick that would have knocked most out cold. David sidestepped and caught her leg midair, then gently lowered it. The room gasped, breathing hard. Vanessa signaled to stop. "Who are you?" she whispered. David just shook his head and picked up his mop. Later that night, Ellie found him in the break room. "You were ... dizing," she said. David smiled faintly. "That life's over. Liam's my mission now." But word had spread. The next morning, HR called him in. Not to reprimand, but to offer a role. A new program was launching for injured veterans and retired service members, focusing on security training and combat simulation, and they wanted David to lead it. He declined at first. But when he saw Liam drawing pictures of super dads fighting bad guys, he reconsidered. "I want to help again," David told Ellie, "but on my terms." 2 weeks later, David began training 10 recruits in the building's disused basement gym. Most were young, eager, and had no idea that the man showing them tactical disarms had once crawled through fire zones to rescue hostages. Vanessa returned to observe, but this time with respect. She watched David explain not just moves, but the philosophy of restraint. "You win," he said, "not when you strike, but when you choose not to." Liam often sat quietly in the corner after school, watching his father with pride. The shy boy who used to flinch at loud noises now walked taller. Once, during a drill, one of the younger recruits messed up and got embarrassed. Liam walked over and said, "It's okay. Dad says mistakes make better fighters." One afternoon, the building faced a real crisis. An ex-employee with mental health issues broke in with a weapon, locking the main tech floor. Panic spread. Officers scrambled, but it was David who calmly stepped forward. He approached unarmed, using his voice first, talking, calming, drawing from every ounce of humanity he had learned as both a soldier and father. When the man lunged, David disarmed him in seconds, without a bruise, without a bullet. He de-escalated what could have been a bloodbath. Vanessa later told the press, "Combat isn't just strength, it's wisdom." And David Holloway redefined That today, overnight, David became more than a janitor. Veterans from across the state applied to train under him. Schools invited him to speak. And Liam, he beamed when classmates called his dad a hero. Months passed. David remained humble. He still mopped the halls from time to time, reminding himself where he came from. But he had built something bigger, proof that dignity, sacrifice, and silent strength could leave even warriors speechless. David's program expanded. Soon, he was asked to speak at a national summit for veteran reintegration. There, he delivered a speech titled "The Silent Uniform," and every chair in the auditorium was taken. Vanessa introduced him personally, and by the end, the room gave him a standing ovation that lasted 3 minutes. David's influence reached far beyond the building. Schools requested his input on anti-bullying programs. His former Ranger unit reached out, and quietly the Department of Defense offered to fund an expanded version of his curriculum. Not to turn civilians into soldiers, but to teach courage, discipline, and peace. Liam began recording his dad's stories, drawing comics based on real missions, and slowly started healing too. Therapy helped him sleep again. He stopped checking the locks 5 times a night. And one day he told his father, "I think Mom would be proud." David choked on his breath. "She would be," he replied. "She is." On the anniversary of his wife's death, David and Liam visited her grave. They brought her favorite sunflowers, and Liam left a comic book he'd drawn. On the front page, a janitor stood facing a battlefield, mop in one hand, shield in the other. A year after that unforgettable sparring match, Vanessa returned one more time. This time, not in uniform. She brought her niece, who'd been struggling after her father's deployment. David invited her to join the youth resilience group he'd started with Liam. Vanessa smiled. "You've done more here than I ever did on the field." David replied, "Sometimes the real battle is the one we fight in silence." And that silence, once heavy with pain, now echoed with purpose. The weeks after David's encounter with the intruder were different, filled with interviews, invitations, and emails from people across the country. His quiet world had shifted. Still, David kept his humility, showing up each morning in boots. Liam picked for him, still holding the mop at dawn to remind himself, service never stops. The gym he trained recruits in was now refurbished, courtesy of donations and silent sponsors. The walls, once cracked and moldy, were replaced with soundproof panels, mats, mirrors, and equipment stamped with the symbol Liam had designed, a mop crossed with a sword. Underneath the words, strength and stillness, David's new recruits came from everywhere, some with trauma, others with dishonorable discharges seeking redemption. There was Raymond, a young soldier who lost his leg in an IED blast and struggled with rage. Julia, a former Marine, who hadn't spoken in 3 months after watching her unit perish. And Carlos, just 17, who had never held a weapon but had scars from years of foster care abuse. David trained them all not with anger or harshness, but with the discipline of patience. Each morning began with meditation. Each drill was laced with story. And every evening ended with handwritten notes, lessons from life. Not war. Liam continued attending, now more confident than ever. He'd started a blog called The Janitor's Son, where he posted videos and drawings, and they went viral. One day, a major news station came to film a documentary titled Silent Warrior, the man who chose the mop over the medal. But behind all the spotlight, David struggled. The attention stirred ghosts. Flashbacks returned. He'd wake at 3 a.m., drenched in sweat, clutching a chair like a rifle. Liam found him once and didn't say anything, just curled beside him and whispered, "It's okay to fall, Dad. I got you." That one moment healed more than therapy ever had. Around that time, Vanessa Trent returned again, this time on official orders. The Department of Defense had a proposal to deploy David to a secretive base in Alaska to train high-risk field operatives in non-lethal tactics. It would be a 6-month contract, prestige, money, honor. David refused. "I have recruits here who don't need another abandoned mentor. And I have a son who's just now sleeping through the night." Vanessa nodded. "We understand, but we need you, David, not as a soldier, as a symbol." He asked for a day. That night, he and Liam walked The trail near their home, a fox darted past. The stars blinked through a cloudless sky. You ever think about going back? Liam asked softly. David hesitated. Sometimes. But I think about what I'd leave behind. Liam stopped. Would Mom want you to stop being brave? David knelt beside him. No, but she'd want me to be present, for you. I'll be. Okay, Dad, you taught me how. Tears brimmed in David's eyes. The next day, he accepted, but with one condition: he'd take the youth program with him, building a mirrored system on base for young soldiers and military children who struggled emotionally. Vanessa agreed. And so began the journey. Alaska was brutal, snow thick like cement, winds howling like banshees. The base was isolated, nearly forgotten, but soon, under David's leadership, it pulsed with life. Meditation domes were built from old hangars. Therapy dogs were introduced. Instead of drills, David taught silence, how to listen to breath in chaos, how to walk without fear. He wrote daily to Liam, and every weekend they video called. Liam had taken over the original gym back home, training 3 kids under Ellie's supervision. David had passed the torch and it burned bright. 6 months passed. David returned to a crowd. Banners across the tech building where it all began. A small brass plaque now hung in the hallway he once mopped, in honor of David Holloway, the janitor who fought without violence. The gym was now renamed the Holloway Center for Peace and Training. Liam handed him the first ceremonial uniform, gray, stitched with silver thread, simple, elegant. Like David, the reunion with his recruits was emotional. Raymond now ran drills with confidence and prosthetic-enhanced agility. Julia had started coaching local kids in self-defense. Carlos had graduated high school and planned to become a trauma counselor. One evening, after the cheers died, David walked through the now empty gym. Vanessa joined him. You built a legacy, she said. David looked at the mop and sword emblem glowing on the wall. No, we did, with silence, with patience, with presence. You changed the military, she added. David smiled. Maybe, but more importantly, I changed myself.